Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Everyday English Flow. How are you today? I hope you are doing great. I am Maya, and I am here with my co-host, Ryan. Welcome back to the channel, Ryan.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here today. And hello to all our amazing viewers. Thank you so much for watching Everyday English Flow. It is always great to be here, Maya.
Today, we're continuing our series, Common Communication Problems in English, with Episode 2, and this one is about a moment almost everyone has experienced.
That's right. Someone speaks to you in English, maybe a stranger, a coworker, or even just a shopkeeper, and suddenly your mind goes completely blank, even though you understood every word they said.
This is often called freezing, and it's different from Episode 1's topic. Last time, we talked about not being able to produce speech in general. Today, we're focusing specifically on that sudden shock moment when you're caught off guard.
By the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly why this freezing happens, and we'll share some real practical ways to handle it calmly and confidently.
This episode really builds on what we started in Episode 1, since freezing is often the very first moment where that whole understanding versus speaking gap becomes painfully obvious.
And just like episode 1, this episode is built to feel practical, no complicated psychology terms, just real explanations and simple things you can try the very next time this happens to you.
Let's get started.
Maya, has this ever happened to you? Someone speaking to you suddenly and your mind just stopping?
Oh, definitely. I remember once someone asked me a simple question, just directions to a nearby shop, and for a second, I genuinely couldn't remember a single English word, even though I knew the answer perfectly well.
That's such a relatable moment. What do you think was actually happening in your brain at that point?
Looking back, I think it was pure surprise. I wasn't expecting to be spoken to, so my brain didn't have time to prepare, and that sudden pressure just shut everything down for a second.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like your brain needs a small warning before it can switch into speaking mode.
Exactly. And I noticed something interesting, too. If I had a moment to prepare, even 5 seconds, I could usually respond just fine. It was really the suddenness that caused the freeze, not a lack of knowledge.
I've felt something similar too, especially in situations where I also felt a bit nervous or judged, like talking to someone more senior or in a formal setting.
That's such an important addition. It's not just about surprise. Sometimes it's surprise combined with pressure, feeling like you need to perform well, which makes the freeze even stronger.
So it sounds like there are actually a few different ingredients that combine to create this freezing moment.
Yes, and I think naming those ingredients separately, surprise, stress, and fear of judgment, already makes the whole experience feel a lot less mysterious and overwhelming. Exactly. And once we understand those ingredients separately, it becomes much easier to handle the moment when it happens again.
I also think it helps to remember that freezing usually only lasts a few seconds, even though it can feel like forever in the moment.
That's so true. In my own experience, once I realized the freeze itself was temporary, I felt much less panicked about it. I just had to wait it out calmly instead of fighting it.
That's a really important shift from panicking about the freeze to simply accepting it as a short passing moment. Let's break all of that down properly in the learning section.
Let's start with the core reasons behind this freezing moment. Reason 1. Surprise interrupts your mental preparation. When you know a conversation is coming, your brain quietly prepares, gathering related words and phrases. A sudden question skips that preparation step entirely.
It's a bit like being asked to catch a ball you didn't know was being thrown. Even if you're normally good at catching, the surprise itself makes you fumble.
That's such a good way to put it. The issue isn't ability, it's timing. Your brain simply hasn't had a chance to load the right words yet. Reason 2. Stress hormones affect memory access. When you feel sudden pressure, even mild pressure, your body releases stress hormones that can temporarily make it harder to access memory, including vocabulary you know very well.
This is actually why people sometimes forget their own phone number when they're nervous. It's not that the information disappeared, it's just harder to access under stress.
Exactly, and that's such an important thing to remember. Freezing isn't a sign that you don't know English. It's a very normal, temporary stress response.
It's also worth noting that this exact stress response evolved for very different situations, like reacting to sudden danger, not answering a casual question, so it's not really designed for conversations at all.
That's such an interesting way to look at it. Our brains are using an ancient survival reaction for a completely modern, harmless situation, which is honestly a little funny once you think about it that way. Reason 3, fear of being judged makes it worse. Many learners worry about sounding wrong or unintelligent in front of others, and that fear adds extra pressure on top of the surprise itself.
And ironically, the more you worry about the other person's judgment, the harder it becomes to think clearly, which can actually create the exact mistake you were afraid of.
That's such a frustrating cycle, but understanding it is the first step to breaking it. Reason 4, lack of ready-made responses. If you don't have a few automatic phrases ready in advance, your brain has to build a sentence completely from scratch, in real time, under pressure.
This is a really important point, and it leads nicely into our first fix.
Let's move into the fixes now, since understanding the problem is only useful if we also know how to respond to it. Fix 1. Keep a few ready-made phrases in your back pocket. Simple phrases like, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" Or, "Just a second, let me think." Give your brain a moment to recover without an awkward silence.
These phrases are incredibly powerful because they buy you time, and time is exactly what your brain needs after a sudden question. Fix 2. Practice sudden question drills. Ask a friend or even yourself random unexpected questions, and practice answering immediately, even with a simple, short answer.
This trains your brain to expect the unexpected. Over time, sudden questions start to feel much less shocking.
You can even make a small game of it. Ask a friend to surprise you with a random question once a day for a week, and just try answering, even with a very short or imperfect answer. Fix 3. Slow your breathing for 2 seconds before responding. A short pause, even just 2 seconds, combined with a slow breath, can calm your stress response enough to access your vocabulary again. It feels like a tiny thing, but physically it really does help reset your body out of that sudden stress reaction.
And this technique isn't just for language learning either. It's something actors, public speakers, and even athletes use before a high-pressure moment, so it's a genuinely well-tested trick. Fix 4. Remind yourself that freezing is normal, not a failure. Even fluent speakers freeze sometimes, especially in a second language, under pressure, or when caught off guard. This mindset shift removes a lot of the shame that often makes people avoid speaking altogether after a freezing moment.
In fact, some of the most fluent speakers we've ever met still freeze occasionally, especially when they're tired, distracted, or caught completely off guard, so this really is universal.
And that universality is actually reassuring. It means freezing has nothing to do with your level of English, and everything to do with being a normal human brain under sudden pressure. Fix 5. Practice in slightly unpredictable settings. Instead of only practicing planned conversations, try ordering food, asking a stranger for the time, or joining a spontaneous conversation, situations with a little natural unpredictability.
These smaller, everyday moments are actually perfect training grounds because they carry real, mild surprise without being too overwhelming.
And you can slowly increase the challenge over time too, starting with very low-stakes situations, like ordering coffee, before moving towards slightly more unpredictable ones, like small talk with a stranger. Let's also talk about what to actually say in the moment itself, since that's often the missing piece for a lot of learners.
Great idea. If you freeze, it's completely okay to say, "Sorry, my mind just went blank for a second." Most people will understand and simply wait for you.
And that honesty is actually far more natural than trying to hide the freeze. Everyone has experienced a mental blank at some point, in any language.
Another useful trick is repeating part of the question back. You're asking about the nearest station. This buys extra time and confirms you understood correctly.
That's such a practical tip. It turns a silent pause into an active, engaged moment in the conversation instead.
Let's also add a quick note on body language, since it plays a bigger role in these moments than most people realize.
That's a great point. Even a small, calm nod or a slight pause with a thoughtful expression signals to the other person that you're processing, not ignoring them.
Exactly, and that small signal often relaxes the other person too, which in turn makes the whole interaction feel less tense for both sides.
It's worth remembering that most people are actually quite patient in these moments, especially once they realize you're genuinely trying to communicate, not avoiding them.
One more helpful mindset shift: try to see a freeze as useful information, not a failure. It tells you exactly which situations or phrases you should practice a little more.
That's such a healthy way to look at it. Instead of feeling discouraged, you can actually use each freeze as a small, specific practice goal for the following week. Now it's your turn. In the comments, tell us about a time you froze during a conversation, what happened, and how you eventually recovered.
Don't worry about writing it perfectly either. Even a short, honest comment about a freezing moment helps other learners feel less alone in this exact experience. And try this small challenge. Write down 3 ready-made phrases you can use next time you freeze, like, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" Or, "Give me a second to think."
Keep those phrases somewhere you'll remember, your Notes app, a sticky note, anywhere you'll actually see them again.
And once you've written them down, try saying them out loud a few times too, so they feel natural and ready to use, rather than just words sitting in a notebook. If you try the sudden question drill with a friend this week, let us know how it went. We'd love to hear your experience.
And if you have your own trick for recovering from a freeze, share it below. It might be exactly what another listener needs to hear.
Here's one more small idea. Next time you feel yourself about to freeze in a real conversation, try repeating just one of the phrases we practiced today out loud, right in that moment, and notice how it feels.
Even if it feels a little clumsy the first few times, that small action breaks the silence, and often, the rest of the sentence starts to come naturally right after. Great work today! We covered why we freeze when caught off guard in English and 5 practical ways to recover calmly and confidently.
Remember, freezing isn't about your English ability. It's a normal stress response that happens to everyone in every language at some point.
Keep a few ready-made phrases handy. Practice a little unpredictability and be kind to yourself the next time it happens.
And remember, even people speaking their first language freeze sometimes when they're surprised, tired, or nervous, so this is a completely human moment, not something unique to language learners.
That's such a comforting thought. Freezing connects all of us. It's simply part of how the human brain handles sudden pressure in any language.
Next episode, we're continuing this series with why your English sounds correct in your head but wrong when you speak, another really common frustration.
Thank you so much for watching and practicing with us today.
Bye, everyone, and keep practicing.
One small homework task before you go. Write down 3 ready-made phrases for freezing moments and try to use one this week.
That small habit, done every day, is how sudden panic slowly turns into calm confidence. We'll see you in the next episode.
And however small that step feels today, it's exactly this kind of steady, gentle practice that eventually turns a frightening freeze into just a tiny, forgettable pause. Take care, everyone, and see you next time.